morning. This is DeProgram with Ted Rall and Jamarl Thomas. It is Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. I'm Ted Rall. That's producer Robbie West next to me. Jamarl Thomas is wrapping up his show, and he'll be right with us. Hope everything is going well for you this morning. And there, indeed, just as I mentioned him, Jamarl pops on. I'm going to add
What's going on, man?
Not much. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good. All right. Well, we got a lot of foreign policy stuff to talk about today. Hilariously, Trump is playing he's troll maxing. Now he's asking for compensation from Iran, including for the bombing of the USS Cole, which that was al-Qaeda. Then there's, I'm going to start billing Donald Trump for all sorts of bills I ran up. Like next time I go out to dinner, I'm just going to put it on his tab. Russia and Syria's new government seem to be making some accommodations. So that's interesting. This regional four-pact between Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, in which Egypt is a bit of a silent partner. There's some more details coming out about that. Trying to think what else. I wanted to get your take on, I was just talking to Robbie before we went on the show. Did you hear about Lindsey Graham getting an airbase named after him?
I did not.
In fact, yeah.
Where's the
airbase? They didn't, at least they didn't call it ferry base, just airbase. Lindsey Graham, I think it's, actually, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know where it is, but I would assume they did it down in South Carolina, right? But it's just hilarious. I just wonder, what the service people who serve there, what do you think about that? Of all people, really?
Oh, they're going to be naming stuff. There are going to be so many inside names on that base. It's like Lindsey's landing pad. It's like, this is Lindsey's landing pad. This is, I don't know. I'm trying to think of names off the top of my head. But they're going to be some great names.
It gives new meaning to Lady Liberty, but
Lady Liberty, right? Right. Lady Liberty's lunch cafe.
It's I guess after now gays really are in the military, right?
Yep. Yep. Never going back into the closet.
All right, everybody. If you're watching live during the 9 to 10 o'clock hour, you know what to do. Put your questions in the live chat on Rumble or YouTube. Robbie there is going to put them up for JT and I and Robbie to answer. We do this every day, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. We also do a Q&A show, 12 noon Mondays and Wednesdays. Yesterday we skipped it, and I apologize for those of you who came looking for it yesterday, but we had some tech issues with our substitute guest, Dr. Morandi from Iran. As you can probably imagine, during wartime and just in general, communications are not always perfect. And so we did manage to do it, and we taped it and uploaded it. So it should be available on YouTube and Rumble now, and a few other places. So let us know if you have any problems accessing that. It was short, but it was definitely a good way to catch up on what's going on in the Middle East in about 15 minutes, if you're so inclined. I would recommend it, and I hope we get more time with him next time.
It just goes to show how fragile so-called Western democracies are when they have to do everything they can to suppress the point of view from another country that, by the way, you're not even legally at war with. Mm-hmm. It is insane.
That's true.
They did it with the Russians. They're doing it with Iran. If your cause is so righteous, then you should welcome their propagandists to come on and speak on your platform, so you can just destroy them in the marketplace of ideas. The fact our government does not do that shows that we are in the wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how it is. People are afraid to hear opposing points of view.
In every war they do that, though. I know we're not technically at war. Agreed. I take your point. And Lord knows, I'm not saying it's not right, or I'm not saying it's right. And look, it depends on your point of view. From the perspective of somebody who's an American who just wants truth, then what they're doing is abysmal, right? But that's not what they're into. They're not into truth. They're into narrative creation in order for you to support whatever the government is effectively doing. Meaning they care about what's in your mind, right? And if you can suppress the other point of view or create a straw man for that point of view, then from the standpoint of the state thinks it's better off. Every state does it. I don't think it's right, but every state does it.
But yeah, I mean, you're both right. I totally agree.
That's what I'm saying. Robbie's right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Robbie is wrong at all. I'm saying you're right. As a person who doesn't want a war, you prefer the truth because truth is usually the thing that makes it difficult for them to propagate wars. Mm-hmm. That's not what the state is thinking. The state doesn't care about what's true.
I mean, all organizations are like that. They always want to suppress the opposing points of view. You're seeing that like in the Civil War within the two major parties. By the way, I very quickly should just mention the fact that today's primary day in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And it looks pretty clear that Francisca Hong is going to be the Democratic nominee for governor from Minnesota. She's ahead by 22 points. So even if they're off by a bit, I do not see how she does not get this today. And she's a DSA member, not running as a DSA candidate. I'm not really clear on what the distinction there is. I think it's a distinction for the voters. It's a distinction without a difference. And so there's going to be, so she'll be, so that's Wisconsin, not Minnesota. And then in Minnesota, there's another race where that's being closely watched. And then oddly, there's the situation in Nebraska where the Democrats are backing an independent rather than their own person against the Republicans. That's like one of their little tactics in what they view as Republican states. Well, we can't really run our own person. I always think that's a mistake. A national party should run in every district in every state competitively. Always. You're just not a real party otherwise.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. You put a representative up for every contest. Agreed.
Yeah. All right. So what do you want to talk about? I mean, should we get Iran out of the way? It says so Trump's trying to flip the table. He is basically claiming that, I love the fact that he claims this. He's like, well, Iran has been, making and selling and distributing roadside bombs throughout the Middle East, some of which have killed American troops. And therefore, we're the ones, like, you can't fire me, we'll fire you. Like, we're the ones who deserve to be paid by Iran. And he's even like, and also about the USS Cole. I wonder if he even knows that that's al-Qaeda.
I don't think he knows.
I don't think he knows.
I don't think he knows.
Yeah, I think he's too ignorant of that. But the thing is, okay, so where were all of these American troops who are getting blown up by alleged Iranian-made roadside bomb? They were all in places like Iraq, right? They weren't in Detroit. These were people who were defending their own countries from a U.S. invasion. So it's kind of hilarious to be like, well, somehow we're aggrieved. I mean, this reminds me of the stuff you see on social media. Please pray for the poor Israeli soldiers who were killed in Lebanon. It's like, what are you guys doing in Lebanon? Why are you there? You shouldn't be there. So, getting killed is what you should be doing there. That is, if you're there, that's the proper, thing that should be happening to you.
All of those people who died in Iraq by IEDs or anything else were the aggressor. They were the Nazis in this analogy, right?
They are the Nazis in this analogy.
They are the Nazis. They were being killed in a righteous cause
by the resistance.
Yeah. So even if what Trump was saying is true, it's irrelevant.
The Iranians and Iraqis' mistake is that they don't wear berets and stripy shirts and wear cigarettes and sip on red wine. That if they did that, they'd be all set. It's like like central casting, Hollywood.
Yeah, they should have given them the
Gaston.
Made it look like the French.
Gaston, get leave the IED, grab the baguette.
Yeah, that would have been the thing. Yeah, I mean this. I would like to point out this is not a show of strength. This is a show of weakness because ultimately the president has gotten into it's not me, it's you. Yeah, even in this context, it's a response. Yeah, it's you say that, so I'm going to say this. You're doing a blockade, so I'm going to do a blockade. Okay, that looks silly. It sounds silly. And especially when the reporting is coming out that you are sick of the war, you're frustrated, you're yelling at people left and right. Like these,
I mean,
There
the
are separate
Iranians aren't
dichotomy.
rubes. They're like
Yeah.
our civilization is thousands of years old. I mean, we know what you're doing here.
Yes. Well, but it's purely for public consumption.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's for his hardest, whatever's left of his base, right, at 32% approval rating.
Yeah. The base has been split, especially on the issue of Israel.
Yeah,
Because I
so
think it's hard to have a Make America First party as your argument and then seemingly capitulate everything over to Netanyahu, even when it's not in the best interest of America. That's hard. I don't know how you maintain that. And I don't think you can maintain that.
yeah, I mean, let me ask you about, his propagandists, right? I mean, what's in it for? I mean, this might seem like a really dumb question, and if it is, I apologize. But what do you think is in it for his social, the Laura Loomers of the world, the social media influencers? I mean, are they on a payroll? Is it just part of like, we're on this team, this is our brand? I mean, to defend, I mean, I would have a hard time. Let's say we had President Bernie Sanders and he was doing stuff that was just outlandish like this, that was, ran completely counter to the stuff that he ran on. I wouldn't be able to go online and defend him. I would just sort of, I mean, at bare minimum, I would sit on my hands and just like not say anything, right? When I have friends who are doing stupid things in the public sphere, I may not be able to defend them. I won't shiv them because there's loyalty, but I'm just going to shut up, right? When I've had my dick hanging in the wind with the LA Times, most of my friends just were quiet, and frankly, that was fine. I understood that.
That was the strongest position they could take.
Yeah, exactly. So why are these people so fucking loud that they're saying like crazy shit? Like, that's right, like Trump locked in, like we're winning in Iran, the Ayatollahs are gonna die. It's like, guys, I mean, you look so. I mean, it's one thing for your guy to look dumb, but do you want to look dumb with him?
I think all of those things are involved. I think in some cases they may get paid. In other cases, also there's always, from the standpoint of power base, you're at the top of the power base if they stay in power, meaning you find yourself somewhere in this milieu of creatures and swamp monsters at the top if they stay in power. If they lose power, then your position by definition is also diminished. Meaning,
and that's your job. Your job is to be the Greek chorus.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, it what's funny, when Malik was on air with us, anytime Trump said something stupid, he knew the first question in that morning was going to be, "Hey, your boy is losing his mind. How do you defend this?" Right. Like he was a Trump guy, and so it's always like, "Hey, Trump said this. Trump did this. Trump is doing this. What do you think of this? What do you think of this?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
because I couldn't do that for Sanders.
Well, my former co-host Angie, right? I mean, she's
Angie Wong.
Angie Wong. She's a Trump person, and she's on. And like I've noticed that, like in recent months, there just hasn't been a lot of activity or statements from her, and that's because she can. I think she's very good at seeing which way the wind blows, right? I mean,
You're looking in the wrong places. She's very active over on LinkedIn.
Oh, is she?
So she's not so much on X anymore.
Yeah, that's where I look.
But over there on LinkedIn, though, Trump is still he is still the Orange Messiah. He is the savior of America. He has done no wrong. Iran is days away from complete capitulation. Things are looking perfectly fine. Listen,
economy is go. $2 a gallon gas is go.
How do they get this so wrong? And then the public still looks at it and says, "Yeah, it's okay."
Well, it's like
how do you continuously get it wrong?
They're not getting it wrong. It's like what you just now said about talking about the censorship and stuff. They're pushing a narrative. So what they're saying is, do not believe your lying eyes. Do not believe what's happening. Your life is better now than what it was 12 years ago. Sit down, shut up, pay your taxes, wave the Israeli flag, and you're going to be perfectly fine.
I know, but it's factually wrong.
Of course it is.
I
Like
mean,
meaning
people.
they
And
need to
it's
push
not
a
like people
narrative.
have to be experts. They can just drive in their car, then go get gas, and they'll or go to the supermarket and see what's going
Right.
on.
That's my point. Like it's materially false. You feel it when you go to the gas station. You
And you
feel it
might
when
not
you
know what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, but you certainly know what's going on in your credit card statement.
exactly.
It's the Dems' fault and all the obstruction against Trump. Because if people would just sit down, just give Trump full, just give him the Imperium to complete.
Trust in Trump.
That's it. That's it.
Trust the plan.
It's
Yeah.
4D chess. He's playing on a plane far superior than mere mortals can understand. That is Angie Wong right now.
By the way, isn't trust the plan like a QAnon thing? But that comes out of like the
Yeah.
official White House Twitter feed.
Yeah,
It's like
trust
if you
the
just
plan.
believe in us and just trust, everything will be okay.
I mean, basically,
religion. It's not
that's
government. That's different.
that's anti-American in my view,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because the thing is, the biggest freedom you have is the ability to think for yourself, and it's almost it's a responsibility that you have to yourself and to the people around you is to think for yourself, and just look, there's a word for a society where everybody trusts in the leader. It's called a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And so like we don't. I mean, that's what they. I'm not saying that people who say that want a dictator, but they're acting like they have a dictator.
I will say it. People who say that want a dictator. I mean, from my point of view, the right wing always traces that line.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to fall in line.
Yeah,
They
well,
seem to
that's
be,
it's
who's
their
our
nature.
great man, and in this case, the great man being Trump. And regardless,
Mhm.
but and the reason why I say that, as you guys just pointed out, regardless of what's true, they don't really care what's true. They are promoting a specific narrative that they want the public to take on. Now, you can make a case that all governments do this, but they have done it at a level that is breathtaking.
No, it's true. I mean, look, 4 years of Joe Biden. I mean, the Democrats should be fucking embarrassed forever for what they fucking did. Putting him in the first place, claiming that he was in great shape, claiming that he was up for re-election, claiming that he was running the show, claiming that he was Dolomite 2, the human tornado, running circles around poor Karine Jean-Pierre with her short little legs. It's like, I can't keep up with him. He's the whirlwind. She should not be able to like go to Starbucks without having someone mention that to her. But even so, with all of that breathtaking amount of bullshit that comes out of the Democrats, this Republican crap's on an even higher level. I mean,
Yeah.
it flows so much. I mean, I hate both parties, but I mean, so I think I'm a little more objective than people who are, Team R or Team D. And, there's no question the Republicans just do it they do it at scale.
Well, the hypocrisy of the Republicans is the big thing. Now, of the two parties, which one is it that says it's conservative? First of all, what exactly is it you're trying to conserve? That's my question. And then number two, you're supposedly the party of fiscal responsibility and small government. So then
We don't
why
have one of those.
No,
Yeah,
of course
and
not.
that's never been the case.
But that's the branding. Like
Yeah.
Republicans always spend more than Democrats do.
Yeah.
They always do. Government always grows under
Always.
Republicans.
Yeah.
But that's
Also,
the
the
brand.
economy is generally not that great under Republicans. If you
Also
look at
true.
charts of recessions and all that, the economy generally starts expanding about a year or two after Democrats come into office.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
But that's
so
kind of the point that I'm making about the fascist thing. They would ignore all that.
let's talk about
Like, none of that
fascists.
stuff matters.
So Elon Trump is getting Elon Musk. I think I was right the first time. Elon Musk. He's like the most high profile conservative now, not even conservative, right winger, to now be trying to make this ridiculous argument that Nazism was a left wing ideology, and that Nazism was socialistic, and he's just going to town with that. I mean,
Yeah, it's dumb.
the thing is, Nazi Germany, their number one enemy was socialists. And in the Niemöller poem, the first line is, "First they came for the socialists, and
But
I
why would-
said nothing." Right?
Why was the word
Because why?
socialist?
come first for the socialists.
Then why is the word socialist in their name?
It was a con job. It was in the same way, for the same reason Republicans claim to be conservative and part of social response, fiscally conservative. Socialism was really popular in Germany, and the SPD and the KPD, the Socialist and Communist parties, were in the 20s and 30s very powerful. So they thought that they would peel off during, in the middle of a global recession that started in 1929. They thought they would peel off some workers from the socialist parties by adding socialist to the name of the Nazi party. But it's a complete, I want to be honest here. You can certainly, there are some little tidbits of of socialistic things in Nazism, but it's not a socialistic ideology. Like they took bits and pieces, like public, like a lot of public works and some social welfare programs and stuff like that. It's co-option. That's what it was, but it's not it's not a left-wing ideology.
By the way, those socialists got a wake-up call at the end of once he got elected and enabling Nachos.
They were the first people to be arrested and sent to the very first concentration camp was Buchenwald, and the first people to be sent there were socialists.
Yeah. Them and the homosexuals for sure, like the Night of the Long Knives. They just went after all of them.
They didn't care that Ernst Röhm liked to booger little boys. The elites just didn't like the cut of the brown shirts.
These were political entities. Yeah. Comments? Do we have comments?
Yeah, we do have comments. Let's get to them. Okay, so P.W. Walker, thank you. Syrian court just ruled that Bashar al-Assad and his brother will be sentenced to death in absentia, right?
Right, because Russia not giving him back. So, Russia's not giving him back.
No, I don't think Russia. Well, it's interesting, right? So let's talk about this Russia-Syria situation. So Russia and Syria seem to be thawing relations, right? Like obviously Russia was aligned with Assad. The al-Sharaa took over with the backing of the U.S. and and Israel.
Turkey, U.S. and Israel, yeah.
And the Russians were kind of feeling pushed out, but basically Russia and Syria kind of need each other. Syria, I think, probably needs Russia more than Russia needs. Russia wants Syria. Syria needs Russia. And Assad, the Russia, among other things, Russia is keeping Assad on ice and preventing any kind of thought of restoration or letting him return to Syria. Not that he probably would be doing that anytime soon. There's this new memorandum of understanding. Hopefully this one lasts a little longer than the one signed in June between Trump and Iran. But there's going to be basically the Syrians will take control of a couple of civilian facilities at an airbase and at the port in Tartus. But they're talking, they're hanging, they're getting to know each other. How important is this? I think that the death sentence means absolutely nothing when it's in absentia. But
this is complicated. And honest to God, who you talk to will give you very different depictions about what this means.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking to people who are in the Middle East, they're going to look at it as Russia has betrayed the resistance. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at it from the Russian side, Russia would say we're a pragmatic country and we do what is in our interests, period.
And they're keeping their thumb in the pie.
Yeah. Well, from the Russian point of view, we're not part of the resistance per se. We will work with the resistance if indeed it helps us accomplish our objectives in regards to defending Russia itself. If that changes, then our point of view changes. Meaning we're not Hezbollah, we're not Iran, we're not in the Middle East in that sense. By the same token, they had a relationship going on with Syria, going back to the Soviet Union. And so it's complicated. If you talk to people who are, let's say, in the region, they would say Russia betrayed Syria. Now, if you talk to Russians, they would say, well, the Syrians refused to fight. Meaning we can't fight a war on behalf of Syria. We require them to also fight that war, especially on the ground. We have limitations of our own. We're in the middle of a war ourselves. Depends on who you talk to. And I got to be honest, there's some people who I don't want to have this conversation with just because I find them to be friends and I don't necessarily want them to hate me afterwards. And it's complicated.
Listen, I agree with you. If you are assisting another country, and if the men of that country refuse to fight for it, you're in no obligation whatsoever to spend $1, 1 ruble, or 1 drop of blood defending a people who will not defend themselves.
Well, real quick, the Syrians would say that's not really what's true. They would say that the military was fighting the war and they were defending themselves, and that this creation that they didn't fight themselves is something that Russia is using to shield themselves for criticism.
There's video of the head choppers going into Damascus, and nary a shot was fired in anger. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's not how that works.
Yeah, Assad's army ran away. It was very reminiscent to me of the Northern Alliance army in Afghanistan in 2021.
Yeah. I don't doubt that there's footage. I've seen the footage myself. But they would argue that video footage of a specific thing is not necessarily video footage of the entirety of everything.
Sure.
Meaning that there were Syrians that were fighting. But
it was a rout. You know what I mean? It wasn't an organized withdrawal.
Yeah. Right, but there were parts of it that were fighting. Meaning, like, for example, if I'm Israel and I'm calling and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to kill your family if you don't leave. Or, hey, you should do this and we'll get everybody out. Or, hey, if you blah, blah, blah. And you're dealing with top commanders and you're able to get some to drop their weapons. That doesn't mean that all of them are. And it doesn't mean that the entire military was in on it. It does mean that there might have been certain elements that were bought off. So it's complicated.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, did you see what the Russian Foreign Ministry said yesterday about I guess they suspect that the Yukis blew up that munitions plant in Minsk.
Mm-hmm.
Where
they probably did. I wouldn't be shocked if they did.
Yeah, and so they said that Russia will treat any provocation by Kiev against Minsk as an attack on the entire Union state. Well, who cares?
As they should.
They're already attacking Russia directly. So,
well, no. The point here is that they're treating Belarus as basically an integral, a close ally, which they are. They're in this union.
Right. It's a puppet. So
but Belarus has stayed out of it, and if you're trying to bring in another,
they stayed out of it except for the fact that they allowed Russian forces to enter Ukraine via Belarus. So, I mean, if you're Ukraine, you're not looking at that as you're a neutral party standing by.
Yeah, but maybe you should. Like, up to this point, Belarus, it's true, but Belarus hasn't gotten involved in the war up until that point. Meaning at the point where the Russians were beaten back in their attack on Kiev. Okay, but up to this point, the Russians haven't used Belarus again as an entry point. If you attack them and you bring them into the war, then Belarusian territory can be used for that again.
Right, yeah.
Be careful. It's like, be careful what you do.
Yeah.
Don't do stupid stuff. I mean, by the way, this is the same thing with Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Arabia attacks al-Sharaa, or attacks Yemen. Yemen wasn't bothering you. It's like, why are you bringing them into the war? And it's the same thing for the Belarus thing. Why are you bringing them into the war?
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, so here's the thing, right? So it looks to me like, Syria has the current government of Syria under al-Sharaa has reasons. They know that Russia knows the lay of the land. They know that Russia has an interest there. They know that Russia kind of keeps a cap on Assadism, and they know that they don't really have strong control politically or ideologically over the entire.
By the way, Russia even makes their money.
Right, Russia does make their money.
Yeah,
and controls a lot of their banking too. Right, so so they Russia kind of has the Syrians by the short hairs. This is again an Afghan analogy. During the 1996 to 2001 period, I should say between 1989 and 2001, Russia minted Afghanistan's money, such as it was, and they had all the printing plates there. It was actually a funny scenario, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I'll just tell you, there were only two denominations of currency during that period that were when money circulated, which was not all the time because the economy was so bad that it was often a barter economy. So they had 10,000 Afghani notes, which were worth a couple cents each, and there were two different ones. They were both bluish green. The one that was more blue was worth twice as much as the ones that were more green. for some reason, and nobody knew why. Nobody could explain it. They just are. And now of course they're not worth anything because they redid the currency completely. But yeah,
That's hilarious.
so all right. Well, so what should we?
Oh, by the way, but it's a complicated subject also from the Russian point of view. Keep in mind, Russia was killing those very same terrorists, Wahhabis, like years ago,
Mhm.
and now you're making deals with
Yeah,
terrorists.
it's actually a rapid turnaround.
Yeah, it is, but because both have
I
interests.
did not expect to see this.
I mean, they started making deals before Syria fell, which also is an issue that people take with Russia on this. Like, this is a very sensitive topic. At least it comes across that way.
I
when
mean,
I'm talking about
Syria, I feel is kind of like being Afghanicized.
Do you think that's because the Turks and the Israelis are bombing their new favorite head choppers, and so that gives the Russians opportunity to kind of step in and help them out a little bit? Or
Well, I don't think they're going to help them out.
Not
I don't think they're going to
militarily.
get involved in any kind of conflict with Israel or any of that stuff. But I do think from the Turkish point of view, meaning, put it this way, if the Turks didn't want them there, they wouldn't be there. The Turks have a huge amount of control over al-Jalani, al-Sharaa, whatever he wants to call himself at this point, the head chopper, head terrorist of that government that we helped install. And so if the U.S. put pressure on him, if Turkey put pressure on him, well, I don't know how this deal would have turned out, and it could have turned out differently. But there might be geopolitical concerns in regards to having the Russians there as I don't know. There may be a political reason for them to be there that everybody wants. But the reality of it is, though, this is awkward for the Russians. I mean, Putin doesn't necessarily want to be shown shaking hands with Jelani. He doesn't want that picture.
who would? Except for
killing
Trump.
Well,
Trump's
Trump
on-
seems to not care.
I mean, no, he does. He does look nice in his new suit. Though Zelensky could take some lessons from him.
Yep.
He cleans it
Suit,
up quite
nice
well
haircut.
for a jihadist head
He
chopper.
looks just like a barkeep in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Yep. Yep. It's like, what would you like?
That beard,
The head chopper
perfect.
special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He'll,
But
so
no,
he'll
it's
know
weird.
about
It's
all the malted liquors. It'll be good.
Yeah. No, but it's an interesting news bit. And yeah, it's an awkward news story. I mean, I think Mark put it, Russia is playing the long game. Syria may change. It may collapse. The Jelani's hold on power is very tenuous. And what comes after may be more akin to real Syria. So we'll see. But this is an awkward story.
Afghanistan
needs
is
to came
also
up.
another analogy here. I'm sorry to belabor this point, but I mean, Syria, I never thought of as a buffer state, but now it's clearly a buffer state, and it's being
Yes.
chopped up into, the regions that are near its neighbors in terms of its influence. It's the new Afghanistan.
Well, at this point, there's you have the Russian base, you have the Israelis who've stolen territory and entered Syria. You have Turkey, who's exerting control over Jelani, but has also taken certain territory. Yeah, it's a buffer. Not to mention Iraq. Like, meaning it's a buffer of all of these things. The alternative base that the U.S. has, that Iran kept attacking, straddles all of these locations. So no, you're right. It's a buffer state.
Let's do some more comments here. Okay, topic question from Phrasmataz. Did Ted and Jamarl hear about the retired Marine who got arrested in Russia? He kicked a Russian cop in between him and the U.S. Embassy. Otto Warmbier 2.0. He's going to die. I have not heard about this. Have you?
I haven't heard the story. I don't think he's going to die, but he's going to hate his life for a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, we won't hear from him for a while. All right, we'll look into this. FUSO, thanks for the $1. Trump's tidy whiteys want reparations for constantly being brown bombed in public.
Yeah. Imagine a U.S. president openly stating, we want reparations. That's usually for the party that's been aggrieved.
Right.
Aggrieved.
Yeah, reparations for being, for being invaded. I mean,
Yeah, usually that's an issue of weakness, not an issue of strength.
No. Yeah, that's true. John D. Cockfeller, don't be ridiculous, JT. We make America great again by making Israel great for the first time. It's obvious. I don't understand why you can't grasp this. Sheesh.
Well, that's the argument that Trump has been making to his base. He's like, well, what make America great means whatever I say it means. Really? Really? That there's no objective standard of what that means? It's purely subjective, according to Trump's
I wonder
mindset.
if they had an option, right? If let's say the Democratic Party were viable and offered ideas, or there was some other entity that could channel, America Firstism, would people like finally have had enough with Trump and just left? Or
If it was honest,
Mhm.
like imagine, like there is a how do you get a high trust society? Maybe that's the question. And I think the rub is always, I don't really know what's in you. Hell, I don't even know if you exist. I just have to take the stuff on thing. How do you break the chain of suspicion between people?
Mhm.
And I think you do that just by building moments where you're showing that you can be trustworthy, and you're showing that the person's, how can I say, explanation of things is not necessarily going to be taken in a harsh manner.
Mhm.
I mean, if a candidate is somehow able to impart a certain degree of trust and transparency and saying, look, I know all of these other people lied. I get it. I'm a new model of something, and show it, then yeah, I think you can pull it off. But it's very hard to get out of the realist view of things just because it's been what you've been hit with constantly. But if you have a candidate who says, and believably says, I'm going to be a transparent president, or I'm going to be a transparent so-and-so, or I'm going to do this stuff transparently, maybe. They have to succeed, but maybe. Otherwise, I don't know a way out politically.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not agreed. Let's see. Manchild, thanks for the $1. Did y'all see the shit about Trump's super secret plane switcheroo in Turkey?
I did see that. That he was concerned that he was going to be shot down or something like that, or concerned with assassination attempts, and so they had like a mock plane thing. I don't know.
Well,
if
he hid out apparently in the food service truck. So I was like, I don't know if that's a good place to hide a man who weighs 290 pounds. It's like,
Right.
probably should have hit him in the exercise truck if they had one of those.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, I saw the story out of sight of my eye shot this morning, but I didn't realize they hit him in the food truck. I thought they had like a mock plane or something like that. Like they thought he was going to get assassinated, so they took precautions.
And they hit him in the food truck.
Put him in
I
a
mean,
food
it's
truck.
so dignified. Mr. President, come this way, sir. This, sir. Come. Hurry. Go.
Out of here.
It's like,
Mr. President, we need you to put on this dress just in case.
This used to belong to Lindsay. You'll love it.
Right.
Don't mind the chafing on your inner thigh. All right. FP said, thanks for the $1. The Trump cult is worse than the woke cult. What happened to healthy skepticism and critical thinking? Oh, man. You're going to need to offer more than $1 to make me answer that question, because I don't fucking know. Yeah. Critical thinking just isn't a thing in this country. We don't learn it. We don't have logic and rhetoric. We don't, we're literally not taught like about, Donald Rumsfeld's known knowns and unknown unknowns. And we're just not taught that stuff. It's literally, it's like an extracurricular activity if you join debate in high school. That's about it.
But it's not in the country's best interest to teach those things.
Well,
I could be wrong.
It's in the country's best interest, not in the regime's best interest.
Yes. But every regime.
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying. It's not in any regime's best interest to teach those things.
True.
It depends on the country you want, but it's usually not in our interest.
Mr. One Boston. Werner von Braun, former Nazi rocket scientist, wrote the 1953 book Project Mars, featuring a Martian leader titled Elon. Elon Musk's family considers this a strange coincidence, as he was.
Yeah, it could be.
All right.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Werner von Braun has said a few things. I mean, even on this like fake alien attack and stuff like that.
All right. Deep Green VO, thanks for the $5. Hey guys, the Political Compass Test show was really interesting, so I decided to take it myself. Rather interesting test. So Deep Green, what did it say about you? Let us know. Waterways is.
Oh wait,
$10.
he didn't say what he said about him. I was curious about where you go.
No, you just
How
thought
do you
it was.
bring that up and not explain where you?
I I don't get that at all. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's why I want to know. Waterways, thanks for the $10. Is Robbie wearing a DeProgram shirt? Yes, he is. Is there merch on the way to DeProgram.live? Yes, there is. Trent, I know, is watching right now or is listening. I'm just going to say we're being asked about merch. So we have Trent is our merch dude, and we have stuff in the works. Let's just put it that way.
He's our merch dude.
Robbie, tell us about that. That's the old DeProgram shirt.
It is the
who shall not be named.
It is the old DeProgram shirt. Unfortunately, because of the haircut. Speaking of which, please continue watching the gaming channel on Rumble and over on YouTube. I appreciate it. Since
yes,
that'll help pay the bills. But yes, this one has John's name on it as opposed to JT. I will get another JT. Well, here's the thing. Listen, I'm not mad. Well, it's okay. Well, here's.
We're gonna fix it. We're gonna remedy that.
I'm about to say I'm not throwing shade on John, but me personally, I prefer having you here because the only time I could get a rise out of John, like at all, and get him to push back on anything, was when after I went against his favorite president, Abraham Lincoln. He's like, Robbie, that's crazy. You on the other hand, me and you just mix it up all the time on everything, and it's great. And we play Civ 6 together, which, by the way, people in the chat are asking, JT, when are you and I going to do Civ 6 again?
Oh, we'll get down. I promise. It's just an issue of schedule.
Yeah.
It's not an issue of not wanting. It's an issue of schedule. My days are just insane. Like, for example, yesterday, we did shows from 7 that morning until I think it was like 1 p.m. or something.
Oh, yes,
like
it was wild. I was up working like 8 o'clock last night.
I'm talking about even on my own channel. There were 1, 2, 3. There were like 4 or 5 interviews, including a panel discussion, and that stuff needs to be cut. And even now, I'm back loaded on it. Not to mention booking guests and everything else. Meaning my days just stretched. Yeah. And even from the standpoint of booking guests, this is too much inside baseball. My point is, I'm totally down for Civ. I'm not against it. This is not a thing where I feel some kind of way against. It's something I'm for. It's an issue of timing and schedule.
No, I get it. But all I'm saying is honestly, I prefer having you here because I enjoy being able to debate you because you help me sharpen my own arguments. And so it's nice to have somebody that's able to think and able to articulate an opposing point of view because that then helps me sharpen my own argument. I love having you here.
Well, thank you, Robbie. And I appreciate that.
And Turtle, he's asking, Robbie, how many unique chatters do you need over on Rumble? And what about DeProgram and TMI? So DeProgram's hit all of its metrics. TMI needs 9 unique chatters. I need 43 unique chatters. And so what that means is, whenever you go live, you have to just comment in the live chat. Rumble doesn't count a comment on a video. I mean, that helps for discovery, but not that actual metric. So that's where we are right now. So I need 43 humans to come in and drop a poop emoji, a swastika, call me a Nazi. It doesn't matter. And that will help me out on Rumble, and I will appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. More commentary, I believe. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so let's do the regional 4, the not so fantastic 4. So the regional 4 is this like sort of regular, there's all of these different groups like this all over the world. But basically it's this little grouping where, foreign ministers get together and hang and drink tea. And so we just heard about this sort of tripartite pact between Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia. And basically they have, the highlight of this is that they have a Article 5 style mutual defense pact that they claim is, that Turkey is trying to be very clear, is not directed at Iran. Although given the fact that Saudi Arabia and Iran are involved in a proxy war in Yemen, that kind of must be hard for Tehran to accept. Egypt is part of the regional 4, but they didn't sign the agreement. And apparently, the Israelis and the South and Israel were verbally abusing the Egyptian and Saudi counterparts, the Saudis were not cowed into not joining formally, but the Egyptians were. How much power do the Israelis really have over the Egyptians and the Saudis?
Israelis doesn't have power over anybody. It's the U.S. that has power. Israelis they may try to manipulate that power, but they are nothing. I mean, it's a colony of squatters. It's 9 million people. It's basically nothing. The way that they articulate power is through the U.S. So I agree with you. You're basically, how much influence do they have over these states?
Yeah.
And that influence is going to be directly proportional to the influence that the U.S. has on those states, which over Egypt is tremendous. Over Saudi Arabia is tremendous.
Well,
Like,
especially Egypt's literally just like, I mean, they're the number 2 recipient of U.S. foreign
That's
aid
cash.
under normal times ever
Yeah.
since Camp David, right?
Think back
After
to
Israel.
during the JCPOA negotiations, and you get a paper by the New York Times effectively talking about how the U.S. greenlit the war for Saudi Arabia. And when you think of that, you're like, whoa, so they're not sovereign, right?
Right.
Like, if
No,
you need to get the permission, I beseech God Emperor,
of Big
let us,
Daddy.
have our war. And Obama said yes. In the case of Trump, you get a very similar feature where they seem to be, it's like, what does the God Emperor want in this moment?
Right.
So, I mean, they have tremendous influence, but that influence is not absolute. If you think back to Joe Biden, when Joe Biden went to Saudi Arabia, Joe Biden wanted Saudi Arabia to increase their oil production because of the war with Russia, and Saudi Arabia cut it by 100,000 barrels. And it's like, whoa, what just happened? And the Biden administration was pissed off. Well, they told us they were going to increase the oil. Well, you shouldn't have said you were going to talk to the man's dad when you first got in office, meaning there are limits.
Yeah.
There are limits. But influence, yes, tremendous.
So, I mean, should Iran not worry about this, or should they?
I mean, keep in mind, Yemen bombed Saudi Arabia within hours of this deal being signed. Meaning they hit their oil fields almost immediately after signing the deal as a FU, we don't care. I think it's fair to say that while Yemen is not controlled by Iran, they seem to be working in tandem in regards to putting pressure as an X factor on Saudi Arabia's
For
oil,
sure.
which is by definition putting
They
pressure
consult
on
with
the
each other.
opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an X factor. It's like the guy in a group where you're like, give it to Tom. Tom will do anything. They seem to not
Right.
Right.
It's like Steve Prophet, the kid I knew in 7th grade who ate erasers. We could pay him a quarter and he'd eat an eraser.
Yeah, it's that guy. It's like, just, give it to them. They'll do it. And they have a consistent record of being able to impart damage and continue to do it regardless of the opposition that is being weighed against them, even up until the point of the U.S. military itself.
So, but in this war, okay, the Saudis have not, been directly struck by Iran, only by, as you point out, by the Houthis.
Right.
But what?
Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, okay, that was a sound issue. I think there's something wrong happened with Ted.
There we go.
But I see Ted is back.
I'm back.
Yeah,
So-
that's Ted's magic mouse. He's on a Mac, so he has this wonderful little mouse. If you swipe the wrong way, then he just goes away.
Yeah,
I've been
that's
trying to
weird.
get Ted just to get just a regular old dumb mouse like this for years. Ted, this is what you need. If you don't have one, I will get you one from Walmart for like $10. I will hook you up. I can solve this problem.
I will bear that in mind. All right. Yeah, this has happened before. Anyway, the point is that, so here's my question. Iran, let's say they decide, Iran has already directly attacked a number of other countries in this conflict. Right. If they were to attack Saudi Arabia under the current, under this new tripartite pact, an attack on one is an attack on all, just like with NATO. So if the Saudis got hit, technically speaking, legally speaking, morally speaking, Turkey and Pakistan have to attack Iran. Right?
I don't believe it.
I'm not saying they would. I'm just
saying I don't believe it. Like, meaning it.
But that's what it says.
Because Saudi Arabia has been involved in attacks on Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's defending, blocking missiles for Israel, like basically doing air defense, or whether it's working with the United States to make those attacks. And So I don't know as a flat fact if Iran hasn't hit Saudi Arabia, especially in the open parts of the war. Meaning they might have isolated to military bases.
Not
but
that
I
we
don't
know of. Yeah.
Okay. But that we definitely know that Yemen has been opening attacks on Saudi Arabia, which I would argue is the proxy of Iran in this
It's a
particular
proxy,
pressure on
but
Saudi
I don't
Arabia,
think
right?
I think under the meaning of an Article 5 type construct, a proxy doesn't count, right? So
Also, I don't know if it's a flat fact that they're forced to get involved. They can get
right.
involved in
It's just
ways.
more like it's Article 5, like an attack on one is treated like an attack on all.
Everybody.
What does that mean, right? Exactly. I mean,
I just don't buy that they would attack Iran meaning if Saudi Arabia did something that opened itself up to Iranian attacks directly,
mhm.
and I don't see Pakistan and certainly not Egypt and certainly not Turkey.
Well, Egypt's
opening
not
attacks on Iran.
Egypt's not a signatory.
Yeah, right. I just don't see the other
They're a
ones doing it.
silent partner.
And again, we don't know what Article 5 means. That may mean some kind of strategic support short of military intervention.
Right. Yeah.
That could be intel. That could be weapons. That could be drones.
It's intentionally vague, right? I mean, but what is the purpose of this? I mean, what do these three countries think that they're all defending against?
I think they're trying to build up a defense for themselves in the region. And I think they realize that the U.S. can't defend them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, meaning they didn't do this 3 years ago. They're doing this now. And I think the time matters. Like, meaning there's some level of significance associated with the time frame by which they're doing this.
Is this a conflict with the Abraham Accords? Potentially. I mean,
well, that's what Israel was complaining about.
Mm-hmm.
That basically it was like, okay, well, now we have another Muslim group. That there was an axis between Iran, Hezbollah, Gaza, etc. And now you have this axis that is being developed by these major Sunni nations.
Mm-hmm.
And will this be a hedge against Israel's expansion in the region, especially if you get a decline of the United States, or for that matter, a decline of support for Israel by elements in the United States? Yeah, it could be an issue for Israel.
What does it mean that mutual defense treaties, Jamarl, are becoming hip again? I mean, after 1918, they kind of went away as being cool,
Right.
and now they're back, right? I mean, and I'm trying to figure, okay, so what's the common thread here? I mean, is it just that the map is moving again, and that there's no big powers that can really dominate everything the way that there used to be. I mean, it seems like the deterioration of the of Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Habsburgs, and the deterioration of the Ottoman Empire that led into World War I. It seems like, again, we're seeing superpower hegemony vanishing, and so seeking security, these sort of mid-sized countries are seeking friends and trying to become stronger by forming blocs. But we know which direction that, from World War I, where that can end up.
But see, I would argue this is more of a blank check issue than anything else. I mean, if Israel...
Well, that's the problem. That's the danger. The blank check. Right? Sorry, I interrupted you.
But I think that is the issue that we're facing. I mean, if you think of, does Ukraine go after Russia if the U.S. didn't give it a blank check in the very beginning, or push it by knocking over the government? No. Yanukovych would have never ended up attacking Russia. That just wouldn't have happened, right? Does Israel attack Iran without the United States blessing, support, financial and monetary, and for that matter, military support? No, they don't. A colony of squatters of 9 million people is not going to start a war with 90 million people by itself. It doesn't even have a weapons industry to be able to prosecute that war, right? Like, all of these issues are blank checks. Philippines or Japan. Does Japan start an issue with China without... Or does Philippines start an issue with China without the U.S. backing?
No way.
No, of course not. And you can go around the globe and do the exact same thing, and you look who's putting money into this particular project, and you would find oftentimes the U.S. is putting money either in media or, for that matter, military and domestic control.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that. Okay. Deep Green, thanks for the $5. I'm rather left economically, but very center left socially. This was about the political compass test.
Yeah.
Okay, so A lot of people are like that. Dead Meme Club, thanks for the $20 US. Will the inflection point in the war with Iran, nukes and boots on the ground, global economic crisis correspond with AI reaching a singularity? Seems like it will be the perfect storm of unemployment.
That's a tough one. I mean, it depends on whether or not Trump has sense enough to, as you point out, pull his cards and leave. If you push it and push it and push it, then yeah, I mean, there's no way to go. Like, we're just frozen currently. Does that mean a singularity for AI? Oh man, it depends on what you mean by singularity. Like, are you talking about where there is
Sentience,
general AI, right? Or even general AI? Like me, you can have something that thinks that's not conscious.
But did y'all watch Rumble's earnings call yesterday?
No, I saw bits and pieces.
It was wild because Chris Pavlovsky, so Rumble's has been merged into a larger group called Rum Group, and what they're doing is all about AI. So the video sharing platform, like y'all are watching the content on right now, will be used to train AI, and they're going to try to integrate AI directly into robotics. This kind of goes in with what Elon Musk was talking about. Said within 10 years, human beings don't need to have jobs because robots powered by actual high-end AI will be able to replace almost all the jobs. So then the question is, what happens then? That's the $1 million question that nobody has an answer for. Just because you can do something does not mean that you should.
By the way, I've been asking this question for years. Like, it's obviously the trajectory this is going, because everything is incentivized to go that way. Like, if I can save a nickel on a robot that can make a hamburger, why do I need to pay somebody $15 an hour? And the answer is, you're not. It's not because you're mean or evil. It's because it's a practical choice set up by the society that says you should maximize your profit by hook or by crook, by any way you possibly can. And I'm not going to say by hook or by crook, even if you stay within the boundaries of the rules. But it moves in a direction. And so it's like, what are you going to do when delivery drivers go away because you don't need them? What do you do when, I don't know,
warehouse workers are gone?
Yeah, what do you do?
Well, we have to reconsider the entire, well, we should, but we will not reconsider the entire nature of the system, right? I mean,
we'll have to. I mean, if no one has jobs,
we don't have to. We
should.
No, you do. No, here's what I'm going to say here, because the United States is funded by an income tax. If you have mass unemployment because there's no longer anyone working, then the government is going to be forced to deal with this issue. If there's no income to be taxed,
figure the tax code. They can just raise taxes on the people who are still earning income. They can adopt a sales and use tax, which has been floating around for years. Increase a national sales tax. More tariffs. They have other ways of raising funds.
Yeah, and the issue is not like some of these
because the
people
productivity is still in the economy, right? They just have to get it. They just don't care about. They don't care about us, Robbie. They don't need us. And so, I mean, the smart move for political stability for everybody's well-being, including theirs, would be to, look at the UBI or some other construct that basically separates income from work. But they're not going to do that because the natural, tendency of capitalism is just to aggregate wealth and monopolize power. And you're just not. Why would you give away a shekel to anybody who's not working just to be nice? I mean, the smart move is to do that, so that they don't come and kill you. Pay them to sit home and, drink cheap beer and watch shitty television. But that's not what they're going to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that's what they're going to do. Like, I know these people make the argument that capitalism is going to go into socialism and communism, and there are going to be so many things.
Only with a violent revolution.
Yeah, that there's going to be. I don't think it's going to work that way. I think they're going to do what they need to do to maintain power and that power differential in the context of the amount of revenue, or let's say things that they have at their disposal to spend and buy, where everybody else is going to be left to figure it out.
Things are going to get so fucking ugly.
Yes, but they would have to be, because they're not going to give up control otherwise.
By the way, we need to get ourselves a futurist, someone who will talk about that exact issue. I
will look for one.
Okay, cool. I mean, my favorite one is Clay Shirky, but we can get him. If we can't get him, there's
my favorite was Jack Fresco, but he's dead right now.
Okay, guys, it's 10 o'clock, which means it's time to pass the baton on to the TMI show. TMI show is coming up right now. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern time, as we are Monday through Friday. And in addition, tomorrow there's the bonus Q&A show at 12 noon. Thanks, Jamarl. See you tomorrow.
Have a good one. Be safe, guys.
You too.